Hi, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is for September 2022, day 26, and today's prompt is to use a single photo, which leaves this quite open. So I've chosen a photo of my two back in January when we went to Wetherspoons for tea. They do like a Wetherspoons tea. They're not too fussy about what they eat. So I just love this photo because it captures a moment of them both looking at social media together. They have a real love-hate relationship, as most siblings do, but being twins, they also have an awful lot in common in terms of schoolmates and things. So you can see I'm dry brushing some black acrylic paint onto this basil cardstock. It really brings out the texture of the cardstock, and I just wanted to make quite a grungy layout because they're 15-year-old, well at the time they were 14-year-old grumpy teenagers. So I just wanted the grunge to pick up that feel. Now I've pulled out scraps from my scrap bin, and these are all monochromatics. They're tone on tone, and I wanted quite a graphic style, so I was just pulling out the geometric patterns from there. I wasn't really too bothered about the colours because I knew once I'd start cutting the strips it would all come together. So I just pulled out anything that I liked the look of, and this is going to be a layout with strips as a mat behind the photo. So just, as I say, going through, cutting the strips, and then I will position them and work out exactly which ones I'm going to use. All these strips are between 3/4 of an inch and 1 inch wide. The length I'm not too worried about because I shall just tear or cut that down once they're down on the layout. So now I've been through all of those, I'll bring the layout back in and check the positioning of the photo, and then start adding these strips behind it. I do love these blues and teals, and I think the pink works really nicely with it. So as I say, just tearing the ends if they're too long. I'm not too worried for now because nothing's glued down, so I can just have a play. Some I'll tear and some I'll actually cut with the scissors as well. And you can quickly see that I'm definitely going for the cool tones here. And I don't want to cover up too much of that background. I don't want them to be too overlapped. So being very careful not to add too much here. This orange strip I wasn't entirely sure about, but my daughter was in the room with me and asked her, and she really liked it, so it stayed. And actually I think she was right. I think it brings a little bit of warmth to the layout. So as you see, just having a play, seeing if it works better somewhere else, but deciding on that. And just trimming down a few of these last bits. I don't want to cover up all of that dry brushing that I did at the beginning. And there we go. So now I'm going to use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive glue to just stick down the middle of these strips. I want to be able to curl the edges up, rough them up a little bit just with my fingernails, and then I'm going to go in with my Home Sewn Stitches stamp from Elle Studio, which you've seen me using before if you watched any of my previous videos, just to create a faux stitching effect along these strips. And now those are all down, and I've checked that I'm still happy with where the photo is. On top of those, I'm going to look for some mats to put behind the photo. And this is my Elle Studio April kit. I don't really do many pocket pages anymore, So I'm just looking at some of the 4x6 cards to see if any of those will work as a mat. I'm not sure about any of those, but I do love this 3x4 card, and it's just got loads of words typed on the top and bottom, but my eye's drawn to a part at the very top that says having fun together, and so I really want to get that at the top of the photo. So I cut the card in half so that I can use the other half at the bottom of the photo, and the very bottom row of that typed card says capture and document and then big smiles. So I think that that's just perfect for this photo, so I want to get that on there. So always look at your cut aparts or your 3x4 cards if you've got any things like the Elle Studio monthly kit, and see if there's anything you can add as a mat. Doesn't have to be pattern paper. These cards are absolutely brilliant for that sort of thing. So just sticking it on with some double-sided tissue tape. Checking the positioning, and it's good because you can reposition. You probably saw me there repositioning the top piece a couple of times to check that I was happy with where it was going. So coming in with my Sticks to 25mm foam pads. They're on a roll and they're absolutely fantastic. You will have seen me using these before. And now, as I said before, I'm going to rough up the edges of these strips. And then once that's done, and I love this because it really shows the paint behind the strips and adds so much texture and definition to the layout. It takes it from just being boring and flat to really elevating it. So once I've gone through all of these, I shall come in with my Black Soot Distress Oxide ink, which is brilliant for adding black stamping to your layout, and add the stitching down the centre. And just going in with the plain running stitch stamp again. I promise I will try a different one another day. And you'll see here where the stamp isn't long enough, I'm just lining it up and then using a piece of paper to mask where I don't want the stamping to go. Didn't press quite hard enough there, so just going back in. And you see it just finishes where I want it to finish rather than going right the way across the page. So I'll just leave you to watch me doing the rest of the stamping before we carry on. So now that's done, back in with the photo, and it's going to go down because I want to start embellishing around it. This layout really doesn't need too much embellishment. It wasn't an amazing event that needs to be documented in great detail. It was just a lovely photo of my two, and just a memory captured. So going through those die cuts from the Elle Studio April kit, and pulling a few bits out. I love that circle at the bottom that says love this photo. And I wanted to bring in this yellow heart just to add a pop of colour. It matches really nicely with the other bits. Even though there's not any yellow anywhere else, I just really like to add that pop sometimes to really make everything stand out. So using some foam tape to bolster the die cuts up where they overlap onto the strips, because the photo is raised onto foam pads already, so I don't want it to be wonky. So just making sure that there's foam on the bottom where these bits aren't covered, but where they aren't stuck on the photo. Oh my goodness, sometimes I just can't find the words. I hope you understand what I mean. You can see what I'm doing there. So the foam's just going on the bottom part of these two. And now I just want to cut off those little nodules that you get when you pop them out of the piece of paper that they're cut into, just to make it nice and smooth. Sometimes I just notice those things and it really irks me, so better to get rid. And there we go, that's down. And you see I've put that yes to fun at the top of the photo as well. That was another piece from these. And then this one says too cute, and they really are sometimes. So just deciding where that's going to go, and it settles down at the bottom there. Stick that down, and then I think I remember here that I need to stick down that yes to fun. Yeah, so that goes down. Just tidying up a bit, deciding what to do next. And now I pulled out this thankful stamp from Elle Studio. I love, you will have seen me using these crosses before, I really love them. And that Uncharted Mariner ink pad, the Tim Holtz Distress Oxide, matches that teal on that first strip really nicely. So just wanted to add a little bit of texture around the layout. And in a minute you'll see I pull in that white card because I want to mask. I don't really want too many of these to go onto the strips. So I just mask the strip so that it just goes around as if I've stamped it underneath. So it's a great way, if you want to use the stamp but don't want it to get all over other parts, just use a spare piece of paper to mask. Now I'm going to go in and do something you will have seen me do it before, if you've watched my videos of course, and I'm just going to add some stitching to the tops and bottoms of some of these faux stitched rows, just to make them look a little bit more realistic. So just adding some tails, and I go round and like I say I don't do all of them but just choose some of them to add this texture and dimension to. So there's the last one going in now, and then I'll go in with some tape to just secure those at the back so that they don't pull out. I'm just using my double-sided tape because that's what I had to hand, but any kind of tape just to glue them down would work. Now I'm going to use my whole reinforcer punch to add some bits around, some scattery bits around the layout. So first of all I use this scrap of Vicky Bootin paper because I like that it's all dark and grungy, and the blue matches again with that Uncharted Mariner and that first strip we've got on the page. And then I'll go in with some black ones as well. Not loads, but just a few, just to, you see how it adds something to the layout again. I'm just checking the positioning of those. And then I want to come in with my title, and I'm simply going to put captured. So I'm using these old Jelly Bean Soup stickers, and I'm going to keep the centres of the stickers in the letters A, P and D, and I'll just colour those in with a black pen. It just creates a different look, and again it's quite grungy for a teenage layout. So there I am, just adding that centre to the D. I remember that I need to glue down those whole reinforcers, so just going in to do that, and then I'll go in with my black pen and colour in those centres of those letters. So I want to add a tiny bit of journaling, but there really isn't a lot to say. As I say, it's not a spectacular event or anything. So I'm just going through these labels that I'd stamped previously from my Elle Studio label stamp. The one that I end up with is the one stamped with Uncharted Mariner again, because it matches so nicely with everything else I've put on the layout. So just a teeny tiny bit of journaling. I was very brave. I didn't add any guidelines. I think when it's such a small piece, I can get away with my writing being slightly at a slant. So this just says, sharing a moment on your phone together at Wetherspoons, Warrington. Just so that I could remember where we were. I had to ask my husband where we were because I could remember the memory but couldn't recall exactly where we were at the time. The surroundings didn't look familiar. It's not somewhere we go very often, so that was probably why. So now that's down, just checking that these letters, because of the texture on those strips, some of the letters were pulling up, so just helping those with that Nouveau Deluxe adhesive. So finally I'm going to go in with some splattering with my Nouveau Drops. This is the navy blue one, and then I'll follow that with the yellow, and finally add the date with my date stamp at the bottom of the page underneath that journaling. So all that remains for me to say is please do check the description box down below to see everybody else joining in on this hop. There's a playlist that you can just set to play, and it will play everybody's videos with more being added daily, and there's some fantastic inspiration there. Thank you ever so much for joining me. If you do like my videos, I'd love it if you would like and subscribe, and otherwise I shall see you again tomorrow for a new prompt. Thank you so much. Bye.